Well, hello and welcome. Absolutely delighted to welcome you to my first town hall meeting of 2020. Delighted to see so many of you here today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about where we are. We've been having a little fun in here because I need Eric Benjamin here to tell me a Prince song, and I'm a little upset because I can't remember how it starts. But that being said, welcome to the town hall meeting. Today we're going to be having a very focused session a little bit later on public safety and campus safety in general. We're going to get to that in a moment. So if you're watching online, feel free to send your questions in. Thank you to our phenomenal MCTV and communications team that work to make sure that we have good representation and opportunities for people to be able to participate in that manner. Before I do this, I am all about a season of gratitude. I have intentionally changed my focus on a few things, and one of them is about gratitude. So a lot of that is giving shout out to people about things that are happening within the college. So I want to give a shout out to the folks who run our Tech Hire program at the college, because their program was recently highlighted in a national publication by the Department of Labor. The college was singled out as a model for these types of programs that benefit underserved populations in our community. So we're very, very, very proud of them. And I just want to tell our Tech Hire program, thank you. They work exceedingly hard in that program and are producing outcomes that are really demanding attention in many different spaces. And while I'm on the season of gratitude and abundance, I want to thank and just say I'm grateful that Michael Brown is back. I love that guy, and he made me start this by myself today, so I will, but he's going to be here to take questions. So we're going to come back a little bit later and put some questions out there. So feel free again, if we are broadcasting today from the Germantown campus, where we are in the lovely new SA, or we call Student Affairs building. It is absolutely gorgeous. I just had popcorn with students, and some of them were telling me, have you been in the new building yet? I said, the last time I was in the building and saw it was all cement. The only thing they had windows in there. We were walking in puddles of water. And to walk in now and to see this facility is absolutely stunning. So I know Margaret and the whole team here on the Germantown campus is excited, particularly those people who lived through the construction. I have to give them, again, just continued praise because they had locusts, they had hail, they had some things falling in. We won't even talk about the other little creatures that rolled around. So thank them for their diligence. We did something miraculous by actually adding on to a building. They helped us maximize the investment the county and state made in us. And what's really remarkable about this facility, it allows us to have, again, more state-of-the-art facilities for students who need them and deserve them. So thank you all so much for that. Now, you may notice something special about these classrooms because if those of you who haven't walked around, I encourage you to do so. The instructional spaces are designed to allow faculty to integrate lecture, lab, and discussion. In most science buildings that are scheduled in classrooms, discussion sessions are scheduled in recitation rooms, and labs are scheduled in laboratories. But here are the best learning opportunities that have been integrated all into one space. They intersect. They merge, they allow us to maximize space or also to open them up to do other things as well. Now, I'm told that some of the site work was slowed down due to weather, but I think our phenomenal facilities team and our planners worked really hard to keep us on task. So the faculty and staff will move in over the summer, and classes will formally start here and have been doing so. So we're just really excited about this facility. We're also working very hard in Annapolis as we continue to think about how we prepare for additional capital investments that we have, including right now at the forefront, our Leggett Math and Science building on our Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus, so that we can have a state-of-the-art science facility on that campus to really inspire students to do the work that we know not only our economy needs, but certainly our nation needs right now. And we are also, I hope there was a recent update that went out on our less than new building, that being our physical education building on the Rockville campus. You likely saw the memo that went out that talked about and provided an update, and also a link to a website that had FAQs on it about asbestos exposure and testing. To recap, we are on schedule for reopening the entire building in March. The planned abatement work continues to be on schedule. Are we still on schedule? All right, I have to keep looking because I know it changes every other day. The large and small gymnasiums, though, are still able to be used with some special provisions in place to permit access. Very excited about that. Actually, I was in the gym the last 2 weekends for our basketball team, just side hustle on this. Y'all haven't been paying attention to MC basketball this season. Y'all need to pay attention. Congratulations to Coach Keith as well on his 100th win as the MC head and men's coach. They're doing great work. You have to walk around to get into the gym. That's okay, a few extra steps. But I really want to thank them for working hard. I think the dance lab I heard is going to be opening, so you'll have to go through the main gym to get to it. But we're very excited about that facility. If everything stays on schedule, the abatement will be finished on February 21st. The commercial cleaning, because we're hiring somebody to come in and clean the entire building again, because we'd already done this once, come in and clean the entire building. They'll begin the next day, and the new entire building will be open for services fully on March 23rd. In addition to that, our facilities team has done a really good job of actually sitting down, and I hope that they will continue to do so. My expectation is that they will meet with faculty and staff who are in that building, as well as our facilities workers who are very interested in understanding any of the impacts of these things. So thank you all very much for that. The health and well-being of our employees and our students are forefront of this. This is why we went through what we did. We found out certain pieces of information. We let people know as soon as we found it, we put the information out. We've been very clear about that. So if any questions you have that have not been responded to, please let us know. I don't have all the answers. If I did, my head might go boom. But we have a whole lot of people who are much smarter than me who have the information, and we can make sure that they stay connected with you. I want to point out, too, because I know everybody wants to, in the spirit, what's the word we use a lot around here? Transparency. In the spirit of transparency, the college is working and following guidance from the Maryland Occupational Safety and Health Department and also the Maryland Department of the Environment for the entire abatement process. They have experts who've been collaborating with us and who are coming in and asking questions. So thanks, everyone, for your flexibility about this. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, lots of questions. We want to make sure that people have those answered, and also make sure that we're also passing that information to students. The other day, I had another session with students. I just asked them, have you heard about it? Like, no. So we talked a little bit about it. So I think it's important to make sure we put that information out there. Speaking of health, as you know, there is a coronavirus that is going. It has nothing to do with Corona beer. I say that because the number of Americans who were recently polled who thought it had something to do with Corona beer has had Corona actually asking that they change the name, because they say, this is why college matters, people. Just going to put that out there. Student Affairs put out a memo, I think just a week or so ago, that really talked about good health practices and good hygiene. Wash your hands. Say the ABC song. I remember that with Miles. Now I still have to say it to him again because at 13 he thinks cold water and this is washing your hands. So again, making sure that you wash hands. Y'all, here's the other thing. If you're sick, stay home. You got sick days, use them for a purpose. It is hot. You hot, I'm hot too. I don't know if I was having a hot flash or not. So please make sure that you stay home if you're sick, and encourage your colleagues and your team, if they're sick, to do the same thing. Cough into your hand. Go see your physician if you are not feeling well. We share spaces, and some of our spaces are tight. So you want to make sure that you are taking responsibility for your health, but also taking responsibility for the people with whom you work, that I think you like and love several of them. So please make sure you do that. What I think is interesting is so many people have been focused on the coronavirus that we haven't spent enough time talking about flu. There's actually been a lot of news reports that have come out lately that suggest that flu is underreported and the outcomes are far more significant this year, with people who are dying from the common flu, which is not even common anymore. It's some special strand B, C, something like that. So please make sure that you're paying attention to that and keeping your attention on your health and that of others. That being said, let's talk about public safety, right? As you know, we know that colleges and universities across the country are looking at their public safety and thinking about how they keep those who attend their colleges, those who work at their colleges, those who visit the colleges and universities safe and secure, and have become particularly intentional in that. I don't know how many times in the last 5 years I have been to sessions for executives and CEOs and presidents about this, let alone multiple sessions that we seemingly keep having to send college employees to help us be diligent about our own work. One of the things, because we do live in a community that in a lot of ways is very safe, sometimes we become lackadaisical about this. And now we're being very deliberate about this as we've seen the increase in certain incidents that are happening across Montgomery County itself, but certainly within our communities and our school. I say over the last 5 years, we've tried to be far more diligent about safety tools, whether it be awareness about who is in your space. And how we protect our own possessions, but very thoughtful about how we do training and development, information distribution. And I think it's also important to say, I had a popcorn with Pollard, this is with the students last semester, and we were talking about our special police officers. And what was very interesting about that, they were like, what is this? We hadn't heard about this. And I was like, what? Where y'all been? And then I realized, y'all all knew because our students change every several months, but in years, if we talked about this and started 5 years ago, students who are here now, oftentimes we're not a part of those initial conversations, may not have seen all the memos, but those of us who work here, that's not our excuse. If you've been here for 5 years, you should have been tracking this along the way about what we've been doing in this space. So I took the time to kind of go through this and think about some phases and to talk with you a little bit about it, because oftentimes I admit my own fault in not making sure that every time we talk about certain issues, we try to give a historical perspective about this. So because I work with people who are smarter than me, Dr. Gibbons went back and said, well, she started pulling out these memos because folks are saying, well, wait a minute, what are you doing? How you do it? She said, well, we've been talking about this for a long time, and we put together this little chart because we wanted people to understand, and we'll post this on my website and other places so they can have it, so they can understand what we're doing. Back in 2015, when MC Alert started, timely messages, we did that so we can send out timely messages about things that were happening within the college community. And there are now about 18,000 registered people on our system. Not enough, because if we have 55,000 students at Montgomery College and another several thousand employees, we should have more on that system. So we're constantly thinking about how to get more people in that. They all want to come, though, when it's time for snow. But we haven't had a snow date in a while, so every time we use a snow date, we get a massive influx of people who step into those spaces. We also started thinking about active shooter training then, and I think we have about 3,000 people who participated in that training since then. We also started, before that, even our behavior intervention teams, which have been very proactive as a tool of helping us understand the environment and really figure out how to put services and support to students when necessary. HR is also developing a system around this issue of thinking about how can we more effectively care for our colleagues who may also be experiencing challenges that manifest themselves in the workplace. The next year, the college moved into a college-wide emergency notification system. One enhancement that was the installation of display boards that you see across many and most of our campus buildings. Right now, they all seem to have my face on them right now, but there are lots of great things that are happening on these information points. And we also held about 20 security forums on campuses to get feedback on what was and was not working at that time. They were very valuable because it was a joint effort between many areas of college communications, public safety, and lots of other folks to kind of collect information so we would know what was working and what has not been working. Since I've been at the college, there has been more than one serious incident that was diffused by a bystander who sensed something was wrong. So if you remember that phrase, when you see something, say something, that actually means something here. That said, Montgomery College also took some proactive steps in 2016 to try and prevent crimes and incidents that were happening on our campuses. We also hired an experienced Clery Act coordinator to handle these Clery alerts so they can provide more information in a timely manner to us. You'll also know that you can get a message that happens anytime there is a reportable offense that happens on campus. You get those notifications that are sent out through MC Alert, but also oftentimes posted in different spaces. These are all things that are federally mandated because of the Clery Act, but also our commitment to making sure that we're transparent about the things that are happening within the organization. And then in 2016, our Department of Public Safety also increased patrols, added additional officers, and enhanced training. Additional CCTV cameras were installed, and emergency messaging was added to our interior digital displays. So I'm going to skip over some of this stuff because it's a lot. If you want to know, you can go back and look at a lot of these things. But it's important to know that the entire outline is on the website of the Department of Public Safety. We'll put it on mine as well. If you have any questions and want to know about them in detail, feel free to go there and do that. Now, in the fall of 2018, we decided to put up these posters. I'm sure you've seen them around that say, Run, Height, Fight. And they were in everywhere, classrooms and hallways. I even saw them in particular offices, which I was trying to figure out what that meant from time to time. But it was a part of our response to public safety forums in which folks said that there wasn't enough clarity about what you do when you see situations that were arising that became very challenging. We also started a practice that is used in the majority of community colleges in Maryland, and that is to utilize the skills of specially trained, what are called special police officers. As you know, these officers do not carry firearms, but they have arrest powers on campuses and also have some tools to control folks who may be threatening violence at any given point. They're also specifically trained to de-escalate situations that may arise in emergency situations. So for those of you who are nervous about this development, I want to remind you, these officers are on your side. They're on our side. They're here to protect us. They are sworn to protect you. The college has decided to give them these powers only to defend themselves or vulnerable bystanders. In fact, they have, by taking the job that they're in, have decided they will risk themselves to help take care of us. So I think that's an important thing to think about when you're in the midst of trying to understand what the dynamics are right here. Now, I will tell you, we were relatively late in adopting this practice among higher education, particularly in Maryland. We are convinced that adding additional training and also adding the SPOs gave us an opportunity to empower us all to be much more safe in the environments that we work, teach, and learn in. So as you can see, by 2019, we had a large portion of our employees engaged in public safety efforts, either by participating in active shooter response trainings and registering their cell phones with MC alerts. All of my cell phones are registered, and my whole family. Anybody I know who comes into the area, I tell them to sign up, including my father, who periodically calls to tell me that things are happening, just in case I didn't know that they were happening here. At the same time, the college was upgrading communications technology for our officers, creating a new officer training program for MC alerts, and transitioning to a new centralized dispatch system that would be more efficient. And then finally, which I also think is important, ballistic vests have been issued for all officers to protect them as much as possible in their work here at the college. Now, while I'm on this, let me just mention a little bit about the line of work. Safety work, I think, is really the ultimate act in public safety, public service. These are a group of people, men and women, who are literally putting themselves on the line for us, stepping in oftentimes when we're unable to protect ourselves. They've agreed to do that. That includes our students, our faculty, staff, people who visit our campuses. And it is not just work that's being done in isolation. It's work that's being done to make the campus safer, and really thinking about how we can really address two competing philosophies. On one hand, we are open access institution. We are open to the community. We want people in the community to come on and have access to our services, to our buildings, to the support things that we have in place. On the other hand, we also want to keep people safe. So it's a delicate balance about how you do that. And I want to think that we've been navigating that fairly well. Are there opportunities for improvement? No doubt. And we're committed to that. But I also want to thank them because several of you have expressed concern about our increased security measures. And I want to remind you of something. And this is something I think a lot about. A lot of places don't think you have an issue until you have an issue. And then they'll be saying, DeRionne, why didn't you do this? Or DeRionne, you had the opportunity to make this happen and you didn't do that, or could have prevented this. We have visitors who come onto our campus each and every day. We have employees and students who do that each and every day. And now we know we also have a growing number of high school students who come on our campus. So we have obligations to work to keep the campus safe for all of us. And what I don't want to do is have to explain to someone later why we didn't do something that we did. So I will take the feedback from college community about this. But the reality for us is that we need to do more. In fact, the irony is that while some are saying, are we moving too much toward security functions? One of the questions that came in today is, why aren't we doing more? So there's a very a difficult balance that we're trying to strike about having an open access institution while at the same time being very much aware of the fact that many of us who've experienced violence, understand what violence is, are concerned about the environments that we work and live in. We are working to continue and to improve training. Our campus safety director has done some phenomenal work in that space, bringing in training, setting in protocols and guidelines. And I want to thank our officers because in the midst of this, there's a lot of shifting things that are happening. You've got changing expectations by the public and those who work within the organization. We've had changing leadership in our public safety area. We've tried to figure out how to meet the needs that they have, how to create career alignment and opportunities. All of that is happening in an environment sometimes where, to be quite frank, when I wonder, their morale may be low. They're like, what is going on? So I want to say thank you. I know for a fact I am personally enriched because I have trained colleagues who are here who have agreed that, DeRionne, the threats that you may have received, the threats that the college has received, we want to make sure that we're able to do the work we do. And they're willing to do that. And they do it with collegiality. They do it with a smile. They're thoughtful. I was on campus the other weekend, and I know I'm pretty sure this public safety worker had no idea who I was. My son decided he was hungry. So we were in the gym at the basketball game, so we were trying to find a vendor land. And we walked all across the campus because, of course, we went to campus center. It was closed, which is okay. And we had to take the long way around. And we ended up, and I saw one of our patrol officers walking around. I said, hey, where's the vendor land? He said, oh, I'll tell you where the best one is. So we found the science center. And he said, but there's one down there. And I said, this is fine. He's going to be happy right here. Walked me back, very thoughtful. I'm fairly certain he had no idea who I was. But the reality about this was that it was a very thoughtful customer service act. And I want to thank them for the work they do. If no one else tells you thank you, I say thank you, because I know for a fact you're doing phenomenal work. Last but not least, one final note. They have a new phone number. I don't know about you, because then I have it in my phone. Public Safety Rockville, Public Safety Germantown, Public Safety Chocobo Park, Silver Spring. They have one phone number now, and it's for all emergencies and routine calls. Put it in your phones. Y'all can check out your phones if you want to, or you can write it down. 240-567-3333. 73333. All right, I got to be a jingle in there somewhere. I'm gonna work on that. You can call from any campus to connect to Central Dispatch. The old numbers will still work for a short time, because we know some of us are slow to change. So we're going to allow those to stay for a little while, but we want people to start using the other ones. Put it in your cell phone. And with that, that is all I got to say about campus and public safety, but I'm here to respond to questions about that or any other topics. So I'm going to turn it over to my friend Michael, who's going to get us started. And with that, it's your role.
Thank you, Dr. Pollard. All right, it's question and answer time. As always, wait till I get to you with this microphone before you ask your question, because we are on TV and we need everybody out there online and on TV to be able to hear your question. So, can we start with a question here in the room? My favorite town hall attendee.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Pollard.
It always sounds so sweet when you ask the question. Hi, Dr. Pollard.
Is the dispatch number voice over internet, or is it a dedicated landline?
I don't know.
I know, because
Anybody know?
Where's the person who would know that question?
Is voice over internet.
Okay, so my follow-up question is, what happens when there's a power failure?
I don't know that. Who knows if there's a power failure? You need a microphone. Thank you. Introduce yourself, just in case you don't know. Stand up for a second.
Adam Reed, I'm the Clery coordinator for the college and also responsible for the public safety dispatch implementation. So we're working with IT right now very closely, coming up with multiple backup plans in case we do lose the VoIP system. So if that affects public safety dispatch, it's going to affect everything. So they're working very diligently with some solutions that we'll have in place. So, but yes, that's something that is being addressed. All right, you're welcome.
In the past, I've seen other colleges, is probably what they're working on. You work on the redundancies by having other places you route them to during the time. So I'm sure that's part of what we have to do. You have to get certain agreements in place to do that. And I also find you have to prioritize the bandwidth. So there's some I'm speaking way out of my knowledge base, but I'm impressed that I know that much. So thank you. Any other questions in the room? Like church, like, come on.
Well, we do have a couple of questions that were sent in that relate to what you've just been talking about.
Okay.
This is from first one is from Linda Fontaine, professor, college-wide coordinator.
Awesome.
She says, I was surprised to hear at the 2020 spring opening meeting that none of the newly hired security officers carry guns. Dr. Pollard has private security. The central administration building has officers at the entrance. Manatee building has an officer. Why are the campus classrooms left so vulnerable to shooters and those who may choose to do harm?
That actually speaks to some of the things we talked about. I think the role of the special officer was actually first defined by the college in the fall of 2018. The board went through a very deliberate process to think about how we would implement special police officers. I don't know, Linda, I apologize, I don't know who you are, but what I will say is I don't know if you were around when we had the forums. And at that point, we had very robust conversations on each of the campuses about whether to arm these officers. And the general consensus that the college community recommended at that time is that they were unprepared to see armed officers in these roles. We had not had the escalation enough regarding events to be able to see that, and many people were resistant to that idea. I will note we're one of the few community colleges, though, in the state of Maryland that does not have, and higher ed in general, that does not have armed officers. But we decided that when I took it to the board did not at that time adopt to have armed officers. To be clear, I do not have a private detail. What I have are 2 security officers that are Department of Public Safety employees whose jobs are very similar to do the things that you see with many public safety officers do. That was something the board thought was important based on a number of threats that had been issued to me at that time. I will say, as I said before, I'm tremendously grateful to them because they have been thoughtful and diligent about my safety, but also the safety of other people. So none of the officers that you see in Manatee or the officers that you may see in CT are armed. They are college employees who are same officers that you see here. There may be a SPO who's there based on the rotations of the shift that happens. Now, I would welcome, Linda, feedback about how we go about then trying to protect every classroom that we have beyond what we do. I would offer to you that, yes, there are some spaces where we have enhanced security presence, in particular where we know that there is the opportunity for more potential for more volatile interaction. We've explored and will be expanding efforts to put maybe panic buttons and other emergency connection devices in certain areas because we know that to be important. We're also thinking deliberately about how we, and we're talking about this, access to certain parts of buildings. We don't, though, kind of going back to that philosophy that I tried to outline earlier, Linda, is that here's this thing. We want to have safe environments, and we want to put more officers on patrol. We have given them special training. We've put special equipment with them to help work to protect our environment. On the other hand, we are also open access community college where community members come in, our libraries, they come into our buildings, they come to have meetings here, they come to class. So if you have some particular ideas, we've done a lot with classrooms to put message boards in them so we're able to communicate. I understand right now some of them are still dark as we're going through a process of implementing technologies. We've done some things in some spaces, locks on doors as well. But if you have specific ideas about things that we should be looking at, I think that's important. I don't want to, though, and let me be very clear about this, create this false equivalency or dichotomy that somehow we're doing something special and above for certain groups of employees that we're not doing for others because we care more for others than we do some others. That's just simply not the case. The reality is that in there are areas where you have heightened opportunities for violent or disruptive behavior, we're trying to be responsive to that. When we acquired the CT building, just so you know, that's actually how it was designed already, with the CT being designed with the person in the front, the walls, and the security. That was actually there before we arrived, and we maintained that because that is actually a best practice that you're seeing implemented across the country. And to be clear, this is also something you're seeing many colleges and universities discuss. So Linda, if you have more suggestions about what we can do to help classrooms not be left so vulnerable, I'm very open to that. I don't think you're asking us to put a campus safety officer in every classroom on every campus of Montgomery College. What I do think, though, is you may have some suggestions, and I'm very open to receive them. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up here in the room before I go to an online question? All right, I have another online question that dovetails right into what we've been talking about. This is from Benita Rashaw, Student Life. It's a long sort of question statement, so I'll try to summarize. He went to a conference at another community college. During the opening remark, they were given a brief overview of the college emergency preparedness plan, including the number to campus security, information about building egress, text messaging system for notifications, and they were also told to follow directions from any college official that had an ID on. He thought it was a great idea. Could it be replicated at MC? Then he also asked, could we also consider putting information about classroom egress in course syllabi? And should faculty have a discussion with students during their class, during class overview or orientation about response and protocol in the event of emergency?
So y'all, anybody know Dr. Benita? You know, that sounds just like her. She had about three questions she said she had, but it was about 15 points up in there, right? And the other thing that's interesting about that, she had on multiple hats, which I really appreciate in that she spoke as a faculty member, thinking about that, thought about it as a student affairs professional, and certainly someone who works deeply and directly with students. So thank you, Dr. Rashad, for that question. So what I'm going to ask, actually, I'll turn that question and ask our public safety area to actually go back and do some work on that, to think about how we, because what I hear from her comment is how we introduce and orient visitors to the college campus. That being someone who may be here for a half-day meeting or a day meeting or a couple of times or a large group of people. Should we think about adding a protocol where we simply take 5 minutes at the beginning and have certain bullets that we should have, and to construct that in a very thoughtful communications message? That might be a good opportunity for some cross-team collaboration, and just a standard protocol that we remind people. I think that's actually a great idea. I see that a lot now in hotels. They have some very clear information that's there. So I would think that's a great idea when we have folks assembled in spaces, because we also forget that many of the people who come to these spaces may not know, or if it's a new building, how to get in and out. I love the reminder about who to listen to in those moments versus who not to listen to. So I think that's a great idea. And then in terms of putting information on the syllabi, I do know a number of faculty do that already, but I'll offer to ask Dr. Rye and Dr. Brown if they would maybe work with our academic services and faculty councils to think about what information could go on the syllabi. I do know that there is a lot of folks who are concerned about the amount of information we already have on that particular document, and do students really pay attention? But I do think it's a great point that she brings up, that on the first day of class, when you're going over certain pieces of information that are key to that experience, should you incorporate something that specifically says, let's just talk about in the event of a situation, how we would respond. That's a really great idea. Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? All right. We'll go back to another online question, switching gears a little bit. This is from Carla Silvestri.
Okay.
Her question is, the census is coming up, and I see we are planning to promote it on campus. Is it safe for our immigrant students to complete the census?
Thank you, Carla, for that question. So what I think has really been exceptional in this space, I really want to thank our student life folks for the work they've been doing and really advancing the census, and also our community engagement team, who's been doing tremendous work in partnership with them. So I literally was just in one of my popcorn with Pollards with the students, and one of the census volunteers came in to talk to us about the census, and I told Marcus, I said, remind me to say something about it. Little I know it was a question already here, so thank you for that. We know the census is critical for lots of different reasons, besides it being something that we are constitutionally asked to do every 10 years, to count the number of people that are living in this country. The implications for that are significant. It directs federal spending. It also allows us to have certain numbers, decide the number of people who are going to represent us. And we know that this is particularly important as we think about competing resources. So going to your question, we also know that the census has been politicized most recently about wanting to have the inclusion of a question regarding citizenship on it. That failed in the court. So as a result of that, The census does not contain questions about citizenship. It is actually held on a completely different server than the regular government documents and government collection information. So they're able to have this and then distribute it to the populations and the people that need that information. My perspective is that we all need everyone to be counted. It is not even an option at this particular point, because we know that there are systematic efforts to silence certain populations of people. There are systematic efforts to move money from populations that need it the most. So I want to encourage each and every one of you. We know the middle of March, the census documents come out. Please complete them. If you're head of household, you will do that. The census is also hiring large groups of number. I heard the hourly rate is $29.50, I think she said, per hour to work out as seasonal, short-term. I mean, some of you, I think I need a side hustle, right? Yeah. So go out and you can go out and help collect data about families to be able to have them complete that. They're doing that for, I think, a 6-week period, they said, and then they're collecting more data, and they'll come to your house up to 6 times, and if they can't reach you, they'll go to a neighbor, because it's really critically important that we have that, and they have ability to try to make multiple connections with you. But please, for those people who are living without status in this country, those of you who may be fearful about that, please take the risk, because our understanding is that you are protected in this, and it's important for us as a community locally to be able to have the resources we need to maintain the quality of life that we enjoy in Montgomery County. We've seen counties that are adjacent to ours and in other parts of the country that were undercounted and have paid the consequence for that for 10 years. Because here's the thing, they don't come back again to do this for another 10 years. So if you have people that move in and out of a community, you need to be able to have the resources there to support it. So thank you for asking, Carla, and thank you for each of you who've been actively engaged. You can ask faculty members to say something in classrooms about it. In different spaces we have, I see the people with the purple shirts walking around all the time. Please make sure that they have the opportunity to know students. And actually, some of the most vulnerable populations are children and college students. And I learned today, if you are a baby and you are born by April 1st, make sure somebody's counting you. You can't count yourself yet, but if you're born on March 31st, you don't count. But if you're born on April 1st, you count. So please make sure that they get counted. And college students, really, really critical.
Any follow up on that? Right here.
Okay, follow up regarding the census. The MC libraries, all 3 campus libraries, will be having a you come in and fill out the census online. So we will be having access to our computers on the evening of April the 1st and on Saturday, April the 5th. So come in and there'll be people that can help you with it. So
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Okay. I have one question and then another question.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's your show, girl. Go ahead.
Can anybody explain explain the steps involved once a student contacts the dispatch to let them know that she's left her backpack in the office in the classroom and the classroom is locked?
Oh.
Can anybody do that?
I definitely can't do that. I don't know if Adam or Steve or somebody can. Adam, you want to try that? All right, thank you.
So, hello again. So, essentially, the central dispatch is going to function as the way things are now. So, just think of it as remote off-site. So the same requests and everything will be handled the same way. The procedures will be the same way. We want to streamline and professionalize with this. So that's the goal. So the person calling will receive the same service that they would prior as they are now, except the operation is being pulled into one. So it's going to be a lot more efficient. We also are adding new software, which is going to make the tracking of the calls much easier and hopefully speed up response times as well.
So then the student calls the central dispatch. What happens after that?
So, okay, so the call.
Operational steps.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The call will get dispatched then to the campus that it's being the service is being requested for, and it'll be assigned to an officer that is working in that particular area. So they'll be the ones that'll respond and meet the student. Okay, sure. Is that good?
Go ahead. You got the mic, girl.
Okay. All right, this one I'll read.
Okay.
All right, I recently learned about the possibility of a college crisis management team, as well as a BIT for employees. My first reaction was, cool, all right. My second reaction was, oh Lord, this is going to be yet another ask for volunteers, or some poor soul is going to get voluntold. We're really busy caring for what needs to be done, dealing with way too many meetings, topped off with an seemingly ever-increasing number of asks. Could we have a week in which there are no meetings, period, and no one asks us to volunteer for anything?
So I appreciate the question because I think there are actually a few comments in there more than questions. I see you, boo-boo. I see you. So here's the thing about this, and I'm actually of an opinion. I wish we can actually have a day a week where there are no meetings. I would love to figure out how to do that, but then I found out that there are certain moments that are kind of sacred within the organization. This group meets every Wednesday at 9 a.m. This group meets every Friday at 1, and dare I say every Monday at 9 this group meets. So there's almost like this subculture that we've crafted around meetings. And here's the real irony about this. Then we don't do the work, because then we go to the meetings, we talk about it, then we leave, and then we're all trying to figure out how to get the work done from the meetings we were just at. So I think your point is very well taken. We are over-meetinged out. But here's the other problem with this. Everybody wants to say in everything we do. Everybody wants to be participatory, and everybody wants to say, I want to be able to have an opportunity to contribute to the decision making or contribute to the work. So there's always these interesting dichotomies we're trying to figure out. How do we say, on one hand, we want to make sure that we have all the right voices at the table helping to make a decision, be engaged in a piece of work, while on the other hand saying, but you know what, I got a job that I'm actually being paid for. And this job that I'm being paid for, every time I get called to a meeting, I'm leaving this here. That means I'm either coming in early, staying late, or taking it home on the weekends. So I feel you in what you're saying in that space. What I think we have to start to do, and I've actually been thinking a lot about this, because our decision-making process of the organization leaves a lot to be desired. We are of the opinion that it takes every voice oftentimes to contribute to every decision, and we also think it needs to take a long time. So when I talk to my sister, she works in J.P. Morgan, and I always laugh because she'll say, what are you working on? And I said, oh, I got this going on. And I said, that's going to be about a semester project. And she every time just falls out laughing. She's like, it's going to take you a semester to get that done. I said, well, yeah, because we got to first talk to these people, take it through this committee, then it's going to go out and get vetted, it's going to come back again. And she said, do y'all realize what you just decided can probably change 3 times in the process that you've done? I said, well, that's not how it works in higher ed. And she said, that's actually how it should work. So it's a very interesting conversation talking to my sister who's in business versus us. But I do think our process about how we make decisions and the time that we think it takes to vet them, I think requires. It also goes back to conversations about trust and transparency. So I don't trust that whoever has been hired to make that decision be held accountable for it. Therefore, I need to be at the table too, or have my people at the table because I'm not quite sure. It's a byproduct of us being so large. We're a very large and complex organization. So what I think I heard you saying in your questions was the idea about can we are overworked as an organization, and as a result of that, how do we start to figure out what we should be doing and not doing? I think that's part of the conversation about the future of work that we've been talking a lot about within the organization. I'm hopeful that nobody's going to be voluntold to do something unless it is in their job responsibilities. But I also think this idea, whether it be an employee care program is important, or whether it be a new initiative around this, we're going to have those opportunities. But here's the other thing. We need to figure out how to activate the other parts of the organization of folks who don't choose to be voluntold. Because quiet as it's kept, I can almost guarantee you when I say, let's put out a call out for this, I can almost guarantee you who I'm going to see on the list. Probably the same 30 to 40 people that I know are going to be on the list. Yet we have large groups of people at the college who are hungry and want to be activated, but we don't give them opportunity or don't tell them how to get active. We also have some folks who just said, I don't want to be a part of that. So we've got to figure out how to get more people engaged in the work. So the same, 30 to 40 aren't feeling stressed out and overworked and undermanaged in terms of that, while at the same time thinking about how much work we actually need to be doing as an organization. So that's my broad response to that. We are looking at going to the premise of your question. How do we create, I think I mentioned that earlier in my comment, a program. Our BIT program is phenomenal. It does, I think, some very powerful work And those folks come together, cross-functional team, to look at and talk about ways in which we can support students who may have demonstrated they're in crises, may have demonstrated behavior that is alarming, may have demonstrated that we need to be more concerned and need our attention. I'll offer to you, because I know firsthand, we have employees at the organizations whose lives are very complex as well. And they are struggling in some ways. And oftentimes, just as our students manifest these things in the classroom, we have employees that manifest these things in the workplace. So we want to be thoughtful about how can we support them when they're going through these moments of crisis, being very thoughtful about resources we might support. So I have asked HR STEM work with a number of areas to figure out what that might look like and how to do it in a way that is not telling somebody you got to be involved in this, but do it from a place of care and concern about your best interests. And hopefully we'll get people who want to be a part of the solution. And they've been doing a lot of work talking with different people and industries about how to do this. Thank you. Yes. I saw it. That's how Donna, I know that Donna works.
Any follow-ups to those comments or questions? All right. Well, we do have another security-related question. This came in through Facebook. Ramon de la Cruz.
Hey, Ramon.
What kind of testing are we doing on security gap? The government tests web security by having professional hackers find the seam. Could MC do the same to find our security deficiency?
The college actually in the last 5 years has probably had 3, if I'm correct, security assessments done. And each of them have precipitated or have been followed by a series of changes that we've done within the organization. And in fact, a lot of what we have done most recently regarding the special police officers around how we have been able to enhance their equipment, the way we've talked about wayfinding, communications, all of that came as a result of that work that we did. Probably, I think there have been 3. Has it been 2 or 3? 3 different assessments that have been done. I would probably suspect that Mr. Drummond, once we go through this next wave, this is yet another assessment that will be done about charting a course forward from this point. I think the other thing I love about the question, Ramon, is that this is something that we will have to be doing all along, whether it be in IT, whether it be in public safety, whether it be in many areas of college where they're very specialized, where the environment is happening much more rapidly and change. We're going to have to think about bringing in those professionals who can help us do those assessments, help give us a strategy, and then integrate that into the strategic plan and also operational plans for the organization. So I really appreciate that, and to know that's what's been guiding the work. And we're not, while we have highly trained professionals internally, there are lots of institutes and other folks who can come in and help us, whether it be a National Police Association, Security Association, I don't know all the acronyms, but we've employed them to come in and give us that real constructive feedback. Steve, I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
Well, I'm Steve Drummond. I'm the Director of Public Safety. When I came to the college last August, there were certain areas that needed attention. Adam and I worked on the centralized dispatch. We recognized we had to get the special police officer program back on track. We recognized that some of our procedures were not up to date. So as Ramon indicated, and as the president mentioned, we've done a lot to come in and reassess the program here, and we've taken 4 or 5 major initiatives to get us back on track. So I think everyone should have some comfort in knowing that many of us have done this for 30 or 40 years. This is my 43rd year in local law enforcement and higher ed public safety. So we really have an idea what's needed, and we're getting the support we need from college administration to get these things accomplished. So you're going to see some changes. Some things will be obvious and some will be not so obvious. But with the addition of the special police officers, increases in training, increases in our procedures that are more contemporary and standardized, we're going to have a much safer environment. Do we have time to show our 2 officers for a moment? They're here.
You got the mic. It's your world.
Would you ask these 2 officers to come up here? They're outside. We've had public safety officers for years who had no authority on campus. That means that if they see a fight, if they see an assault, they have the same authority as a citizen, and that's not very much. If they jump in to save someone, they jump in as a private citizen with all sorts of liability. The idea of having a special police officer on campus means that they can stop the violence. They have a lawful right to detain someone and to hold that person for the county police. And they can do that under color of law. So if you two will come up here, Letitia is our newest campus police officer from the Germantown campus. And I wanted to show you her patch. If you look at her patch, it says Special Police Officer, Campus Police. That's the only visual difference between a public safety officer, Jim, and Letitia. Now, the law requires us to identify these officers as special police officers so that people know what their authority is when they take some sort of assertive action. Letitia also has some equipment on her belt. She has pepper gel in the event that she's attacked and needs some defensive weapon. We chose pepper gel over pepper spray so that we don't introduce spray into the air handling system in a building. Gel sticks to the person and it's local. There's no contamination. She also has handcuffs. So if she has to restrain someone, that's this pouch here, she can restrain someone until Montgomery County or the local jurisdiction gets here to make the arrest. The third thing she has is a collapsible baton, which is a smaller nightstick about this size that she can fit, and two other sections come out and make a longer baton. Again, these are defensive weapons, and they're designed to protect her and protect you. So we haven't said this in many public forums, but our only job here is to protect you, keep you safe. So we think that by having two special police officers on each shift, on each campus, will allow us to have those officers there to intervene in a crisis. So we feel like we're really moving forward. And Ramon's question is to the point. This is one more step in making us contemporary with the other colleges in the region. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I love Steve's voice. Just like, all right, I'm calm. I feel safe.
Thanks a lot for that. Anyone want to offer a follow? Back here.
I wish Dr. Pollard would have this when she had spoken. Dr. Pollard, maybe this it follows exactly what we just saw, but my students in English 102 are very interested in terms of counseling, in terms of mental health. And I didn't know if the college was going to get into that, or if they say, you know, we do counseling and we can send you someplace, but we really don't do mental health counseling. So they're writing research papers on this. They're very interested, and I wonder what you thought.
I'm going to say, first of all, thank you very much for the question. We know that mental health, there's been, I think, a very significant public growth and interest in this space and recognition that wellness includes both physical health and mental health. So we have, I really applaud the students in that space. Michael, I'm asking you to come up and talk to Dr. Brown on this because we have phenomenal counselors who, in many cases, are trained and certified to do mental health counseling. And we actually have services on campus to help in some of these spaces with referral. But they have very specific jobs, and as a result of that, they have some mechanisms that they use to help support students in this space. So, Dr. Brown, I almost called him here. He was sitting there too, but I thought I'd go to you.
All right. Hi there. So we have counselors who provide personal counseling, and that does help with students who present with concerns, mental health issues. That is a requirement that our counselors, in addition to teaching STSU courses, in addition to advising, they also provide personal counseling. We also have our behavioral intervention teams. We have a team on each campus. Dr. Pollard referenced that earlier. And as part of the work that we do in our Student Health and Wellness, the Shaw Center, there is someone, Stephanie Wills, who does a lot of workshops around mental health, helping to advise students, to help them identify areas of concern and to refer out. I will say several years ago, there was a college-wide group of counselors who looked at this issue, and at the time, the recommendation that came forward was to refer students out because of the needs that some students have that go beyond that, that our counselors are hired to do. And so we continue with that model, but students are able to meet with a counselor for a specific period of time to talk about personal issues that may bring forward to mental health concerns, and they can be referred out. If a student presents with behaviors of concern, if a student is in crises, then there are some other options. Earlier, Dr. Pollard mentioned the intervention. So the idea of our BIT teams is to help identify students who are presenting with behaviors of concern and to get them the help that they need early before something actually happens. So at this time, that's our model for addressing mental health concerns. This has been our model for quite some time, but what I'm hearing is perhaps we need to get that information out. As Dr. Pollard mentioned earlier, our students change. We have new faculty and staff, and so we need to make sure we are providing information around our mental health services or how we address mental health concerns with students often. Thank you.
That's a really great point, and thank you, Ms. Sally, for that. Because I do think that oftentimes we forget that our students change, and I'm becoming more aware of that. I also think it's important that we are talking, and we're very intentional about our vocabulary. Oftentimes, students may hear personal counseling, and they don't think about mental health counseling, which is actually oftentimes the same. So helping students understand the nuances of that. But I look forward to hearing, as you often share with me, what your students say in this space, because it's always good to help inform that. They keep us relevant, help us understand what really their needs are versus what we think they need. So I really appreciate that. I don't know if we have time for any last question.
We have time for one last quick one from a student.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Brown for saying that, because I personally didn't know that counseling had that service. Until recently, I didn't realize this campus had any type of mental health related services on campus, because I did not know counseling. I thought counseling was only for academic advising as well. But I wanted to ask a question about the special police, and I was wondering how those people are picked to be special police officers on campus. Like, what type of security do they go through to be picked for that? Because I'm just concerned.
And thank you for your other comment. You just reinforced what we need to know. 2 minutes left. All right, thank you.
We have 2 phases of training for people that are selected as special police. So back in August of last year, we were invited to send several of our officers to the Community College of Baltimore County for their 8-week training academy. So we took 4 of our best officers, our best public safety officers. We screened them, and then we selected them to go to Baltimore County for 8 weeks of training. Since that time, we've recognized that we have a number of public safety officers on campus that have prior police experience, 20 or 25 years, working for Montgomery County, the city of Rockville, or Tacoma Park, for example. And we are now inviting them to join us as special police officers. So they already work here as full-time public safety officers with 25 years of experience. So they are going through a selection process now, and we hope to have another 6 or 8 special police officers on campus with many years of experience and training.
They do a lot of training. They also have ongoing training that they're required to have as well. So with that, we could talk after so you have more questions. I know I'm supposed to be done, so I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Brown. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pollard, and thanks to all of you for participating in today's town hall. And our next get-together will be the state of the college, correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And that's coming up in
April.
So we'll see you all then. Thanks so much for participating.
Thank you.